Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life.
Welcome back to another episode of the Game of Life. Hope everyone's doing well. Tonight we have a very exciting guest on. I'll let her introduce herself in a minute, but just a quick intro. We have Wendi Hammond. So Wendi and I grew up in the same area, knew of each other, played against each other a lot, and then went to college and ended up playing against each other a lot more. So we were in the same conference in college. It was always awesome playing against Wendi. I, respect you as a player a lot. So I'm really excited to, get to chat with you tonight just about softball and life. So I'll pass it over to you to kind of give an intro.
Yeah, so my name is Wendi. Obviously we did come from the same area. Thankfully, we didn't play each other in high school that much because it was a different game in high school, but super blessed that we were able to play each other in college. I feel like that was such a cool experience, and especially for me not playing at Binghamton, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're playing your hometown. Like everyone says it. Even though Binghamton's not my hometown, everyone always says, oh, it's your hometown. It's close enough. But that was just so cool. And just to say like, oh yeah, she played at a high school like not very far from me. So that's just a cool experience, and I'm glad that you invited me on here.
Yeah, awesome. So just to start, do you kind of want to give a little bit of background, dive as deep or not as deep as you want to go, but just about yourself, kind of how you got into softball, and then where you went to college and things like that.
Yeah, so my journey in softball started when I was probably like, I want to say like 5. I think I started t-ball and then moved right over to softball. I didn't play baseball very long, just I think t-ball, and then moved to softball, and my dad was a coach for me. So he kind of got me started for it. And when I was younger, I played all sports. I was obsessed with soccer. Soccer was my main sport for the longest time. I was playing travel in Binghamton and just kind of getting involved in everything. Softball wasn't always my main sport. And I think a lot of people are always shocked by that. I did not start travel until I was 13, and I played for just a local team, Southern Tier Smoke. That was my very first
Yeah. Okay.
and it wasn't very serious. Obviously, it was just a local team that stayed in New York when they traveled. And I was started going to pitching lessons that next year with Dale Cook, and he obviously transformed my life from there. I then joined the Raiders organization, and I was blessed to play for them. I loved playing with them and everything that they had and all the coaches that I met. And then I played for them. I started 14U, then I went to 18U with Dale and traveled all over the country. So at that point, I fell in love with softball and ended up quitting soccer, only playing softball. Obviously, I played school soccer, but I didn't travel at all for soccer. And that's when all my focus came on softball. So I really started taking things seriously like 9th and 10th grade, I think. And then my 11th grade year, Dale decided to move all the way to Arizona. So it's kind of a little flip. And then actually got in contact with Kara Martin, of course, a Binghamton girl.
Yeah.
And she helped me the whole way through college. Then I went to University of Albany, and I actually went there and I wasn't going to pitch, which is so surprising to everyone. I was recruited as just an outfielder at first, and I got there freshman year and I was practicing both, but originally was recruited as just an outfielder. And I don't think freshman year I even touched the outfield. And since then, I don't think I ever practiced in the outfield. Quickly just changed to just pitching and hitting, which that's what I really wanted to go for. But obviously pitching at the Division I level is harder. So I think maybe if I would have started my journey a little bit sooner, it probably would have been a little bit easier for me. But I was so glad that I chose Albany and that they gave me the opportunity to pitch, and then slowly spiraled all the way through, and then just like see all the hard work pay off, and then win a championship this year and be pitcher of the year, and like just have those experiences at the end of my career, I think were extra special just to see all the hard work pay off. And I know, like I joked with my college coaches, you didn't even recruit me as a pitcher. So it was kind of a running joke at that point, but it was fun, and I'm glad my experience was what it was.
They might start making everyone they recruit pitch just to see if they
I
going on.
It's almost like The Water Boy, if you've seen that movie, right?
Yes,
Everybody,
I have. We came in with 7 pitchers my freshman year too. There was
Oh.
a lot of us.
Okay.
I came in with a very big class. There was 11 of us, and when I graduated, we graduated with 4. So at least some people made it all the way through, but I guess
Yeah.
that just shows like a lot of people change paths. So
Yeah, absolutely. And going back a little bit, isn't that like if you're an outsider in the softball world, it's kind of crazy to hear you say like you started travel late when you were 13 because 13 is so young, but I completely understand what you're saying. Softball is crazy in the fact I feel like it starts sooner than any other sport from just it gets serious super fast, recruiting starts super fast, and the next thing you know, you're recruited in your college.
yes, I think
Yeah.
it's even earlier now. Like kids are starting really young, like 10U travel. Like I never would have thought of that when I was that age.
I was like playing wiffle ball when I was 10. Yeah.
there's so much here. You said well, I'll start with this. You said you were going to go to Albany as an outfielder. Obviously pitching was on their radar because you did pitch.
Mhm.
Did you have other offers at other levels that were going to offer you the world, but you still chose Albany?
I did, and I think it's just that feeling that everyone says you get. You go to that campus and you're like, oh, I want to play for there. Funny story, I actually went to Binghamton for recruiting, and I always wanted to go to Binghamton because I was like, oh, I want to stay home. I want to stay home. Then I went to like further visits, and I was like, well, I don't know. And then Binghamton, there was like this running joke that, oh, they won't recruit any Conklin Raiders. So there's always just these running jokes and stuff. Then I went and visited Albany, and I just immediately knew. I think they offered and I committed within the same phone call. Like I just knew immediately that's the school that I wanted to do, and I'm so glad that I went there.
It is crazy how people always, I remember growing up, people were like, when you know, you know. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I never really understood it until I did. I was like, okay, yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's really interesting. What kind of was it about Albany in the recruiting process? Like, did you just want the opportunity to compete at that level? I guess what kind of was it for you?
So I think it has a lot to do with the coaches. I had a very strong relationship with our head coach. Almost all the coaches, I mean, but I really had a relationship with the head coach, and we also have a volunteer pitching coach. He's an older guy, and he doesn't travel a lot because he is older, and I loved him. He was one of the best people that I had at Albany. So I think part of that, but also I think it's just like the administration at Albany. They did a lot for me. I did a lot of internships with the athletic administration. So I think just like being able to have those opportunities, a lot of times at big schools, the administration don't even know you. So I think that was something that I really wanted. I wanted to have that connection with the athletic director and like everyone else that is higher up to form those connections. So I think that was also one of the bigger things. And one other thing is I wanted to go to a school with a football team.
Yeah.
I love football, and it is so fun to go to college football games. So that was a very big thing. And thankfully, Albany was pretty good last year. So had a
Yeah,
good
well,
run.
I'm sorry we're making you miss the first opening game of the season tonight. Because
Oh no, it is
I was
over.
watching it before we
Extra
got
fun, and Taylor Swift is there.
Nice. That's awesome.
These are all little things, but super important things. I think people get so caught up in playing the game, they forget about all the other intangibles that are going to make your experience. And it's neat listening to your story because, again, when you knew you wanted a football game or a football team. And it's funny because you only have like 6 home games a year. It's not like every week you're going to a football game, but those 6 weekends you didn't want to miss out.
Mhm.
That's really
When
cool.
you jumped from high school to college, was it what you thought it would be? Was it just off your radar, more difficult, or were you prepared for that based on your travel schedule?
I think I was prepared for it a little bit. Obviously, I think putting it all in one day was kind of like a whoa, going from lift to class to practice to an internship. And I was doing like all these things towards the end of my career. And I think that was a little bit harder, but I think playing for a higher end organization for travel, I think that helped a lot with the competition that you're going to play. But then I think the one thing that like caught me off guard was you don't realize like how nervous you're going to be freshman year. And I think the nerves really took me in my fall freshman year. That was definitely the hardest fall that I had academically and on the field. I thought I couldn't even play just because I don't think you realize just how much pressure there is when you go to the next level. So I think if anything, that's the thing that really scared me the most. I did train a lot. I trained at New York Sport and Fitness and did a lot of those things. So I think that helped me a lot just getting into that aspect, but obviously everything's up one notch. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that too, because growing up, it's always like that's the end goal is like getting recruited, right? But it's harder once you're there. Like the end goal isn't just getting recruited, it's the 4 years that you're actually there. And my dad and I have talked about that too. It's just funny, like everyone gets recruited and takes a deep breath as they should, but really, like you're just getting started.
yes.
That's the beginning. Yeah, it's awesome.
So what's life? You've played, well, you were a late bloomer at 13, right? What's it like? Well, I mean, playing all your sports and playing at the highest level in college and being super successful and then not playing anymore. How do you fill that void? Because you guys had every minute of your day taken care of in school. How do you fill it now?
It has been very hard. I mean, I'm struggling even seeing what workouts to do. I think I've changed my workout plan like 15 times this summer because I just can't find something that is what I really want to do. So I think that is a very challenging part. I think doing the pitching lessons helps. That helps keep me involved in the game a little bit. I when I was doing the job interviews, I did a couple of job interviews in college athletics, and I wish it worked out, and I hope that I can get back into it, but I just wasn't falling in love with the places that I interviewed, and I just feel like the opportunity wasn't quite there. Didn't want to put myself financially in a bad situation, so obviously I have to think financially, but hopefully down the road that I can get back into college athletics or just athletics in some sort because that's just something that I'm super passionate about, and I did an internship at Albany for that. So I think that if I can eventually get back into that, I think it will help fill the void. But I think in the meantime, I'm just trying to relax and enjoy. I think I'm really trying to learn to relax because I haven't relaxed in forever. What
Like
it seems
20
like.
years.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly if I have anything to completely fill the void, but just trying to get there.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're doing good. I struggled and still struggle with the same thing. Like going to the gym, I felt like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, what do I do? And I was talking to my sister, who's obviously like a year further on ahead of me. She's like, Ellie, you don't have to like burn 600 calories every time you go to the gym. Like you could just walk and leave if you wanted. And I genuinely struggled with that because I was like, wow, you're right. I can do
Yes.
whatever I want. And then to your point of your career and things like that, I think it's hard to remember too, like we're still so young. And if you ask people who are 40, 50, they've switched their career 6 times. But I
Yes.
think the stigma for people our age, like you have to have it figured out right now, and you don't. And it seems like you have like your mind open to all sorts of different opportunities, which I think is a good thing. And I'm trying to do that too right now, but it's really hard. Just feeling like you need to have everything figured out for the next 20 years.
Yes, I think there's always a lot of pressure, especially when you graduate. Oh, what's the next step? For a while, I didn't have an answer for anyone, and I was like, I don't know, because I didn't accept my job until probably 2 weeks after we came back from Texas and I moved home. There was just a lot going on, so I was like, I don't know my next few steps, and I think that was a struggle for me when people would ask and say, "What's your next steps?" But I didn't have those next steps yet, so I think there is definitely a lot of pressure, especially for student athletes. It's kind of hard for us to get that experience that everyone's looking for. I mean, I know like a lot of my teammates are struggling with that and just being able to find like the internship experience and try to find that work experience while playing.
Yeah.
It's hard, but being so young, I know one thing that I think's cool about athletes, if it can be tapped correctly, is you guys took risks every single day, all for the unknown. Like there were no guarantees in anything you want to do, right? No guarantees to play, no guarantees to win, no guarantees to win a championship. And both of you probably traded all in to go back and do it again, right? If
Yeah.
if your body could be a little fresher,
Yeah,
probably.
right. That's a big factor. Yeah.
And I think if you lack I mean, in an ideal world, it'd be great to have the internship experience, but if you lack it, I think you can utilize those qualities. And I think in today's world, people are looking more for people that are willing to sacrifice and jump into the unknown and work hard and maybe have experience if you could tap that correct.
Yes, 100%.
So how did you kind of prioritize your career and life after college while you were still there? While you're still at Albany?
It was very hard. I went through a lot in the spring. It was a very, very hard spring for me. Obviously, if you look at our like scores and all the things we accomplished,
Right.
wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
In the spring, we played Bryant. I flew to Memphis from Bryant to do a job interview. It was very stressful.
Oh, yeah.
It was the first time I've ever gone to Memphis, never gone to Memphis. I did not like it. I don't recommend Memphis, but it was a good opportunity. I wanted to go because I wanted to get the internship or the interview experience and like kind of see like hands-on. So my coach was very open to it. She's like, yep, fly out of Rhode Island and go straight there and then come to practice on Tuesday. So my coaches were very flexible with it. It was less stressful when they were very flexible on it. So then I came back and then we actually all lost a friend on the football team. He passed away. So that was a very hard thing that came to our team. So that was just another battle that we had to go through. And then, so there's just a lot of emotions, a lot of things going on. Then I had more job interviews. I feel like every day after practice, I was coming back saying, okay, I have to leave practice a little bit early. I have another interview. My coach is like, are you going to decide on the job? Because I was just doing so many interviews, but I think all those interviews really helped me. And I was also doing an internship with the athletic program. But that internship, they kind of let me come and go when I could. So it was very flexible, which is very easy. But they were also like prepping me with all these interview questions and like how to prepare for that next step. They were actually sending me a lot of job offers. So I didn't have to like go and search for them all. They were helping me in that aspect. So that was also very helpful.
Yeah.
And it's like doing all those things. And then when we got to the tournament though, I put that all aside. I did
Yeah.
one last interview when I got to the tournament. I had one last one the very first day. And then after that, I didn't do any more until after the tournament. So I think I just had to, it's almost like I just had to lock in for that week. So I was doing interviews all the way up until the tournament, then took a break and then came back, did more interviews and then went to Texas. Then we came back and right when I got back from Texas, I flew to Virginia for another job interview. So I was doing a lot of like going everywhere. I made a joke. I think my last month of college, I was just living out of a suitcase. So it was very hectic and it sounds like a lot and we went through a lot, but I think all the experiences together were very helpful. And I think it helped me now and helped shape me into who I am now. I definitely wouldn't have moved this far away from home if it wasn't for all those experiences that I had and was able to have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure as tough as all those interviews were, and let alone in season of your last year, I think it's good you're thinking about it like proactively, right? Instead of graduating and being like, now what? Because I think a lot of people get in that position. And I know the one thing that's helped like me and a lot of my friends almost like grieve through the process of losing your sport is you have something else to look forward to. Because I know I was struggling with, when I was done, like, okay, now what? Like, where do I go? What do I do? So good for you, honestly, for, prioritizing that. Cause I mean, I know what the schedule is like, and that's not easy. So.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been able to if I wasn't doing my internship. Like I praise all the people in the administration for really helping me and like doing all the back end stuff because that really was a lot of help. So
Great. Big shout out to your coaches too, because it would be very easy for them to just shut it down
yes.
and what are you going to do? You're not going to let your team down. So, and it sounds like your team must have supported you as well.
Yes, and actually, I don't know if you guys know, but we actually got our butts kicked by Bryant that weekend. And I was very nervous to leave and get on the flight because I thought she was going to blame everything on me going to this interview and only focusing on the interview. So I was very nervous for that, but she wasn't. And immediately when I got back, she asked how the interview was. So she was definitely very supportive the whole entire time and always like, oh, is there any connections I can help you with? So I think it was very, very helpful to have them.
That's amazing. And I think it's crazy thinking like the stress you have your freshman year to that type of stress your last year. It's both real in the moment, but it's so different.
Yes, 100%.
It's crazy. So I know you mentioned earlier a little bit, right? Like when you get to college, things don't go according to plan, right? So I guess what did you think your 4 years were gonna be like? And then what were some of, the major differences you went through or, went awry from your plan?
Yeah, so honestly, going into college, I feel like I didn't have too high of expectations, especially coming from a small town. Everyone's like, oh, like you don't know if you're gonna play at the next level. I feel like that's the biggest thing that everyone always says. So I didn't really have a lot of expectations. Like I said, I was kind of going in not knowing if I was even gonna pitch. So I think one of the biggest things is that I was able to play all 4 years. I was a starter well, 5 years, I guess, because COVID, but I think that was probably the biggest thing. The biggest thing that I didn't know was able to happen is that I could be a starter. And I think like even in the weight room, like when my freshman year, when I got there, I was seeing those girls lift the heaviest weights and I was like, how are they doing that? I didn't even have the correct form or anything. And then when my class left, we hold tons of records in the weight room. So I think it's just like not watching the people above you and you're like, oh my gosh, how can I ever get to that? But I don't think freshmen realize that as a senior, they're 4 years older than you. And that's like a big difference, especially having the fifth years there. I know those will stop soon because COVID's over, but just like being able to like see that difference as a freshman, you don't realize that. But as a senior, I'm like, she's only a freshman. Like you need to remember that kind of thing. And just like the playing and like at Albany, my coach gives everyone an opportunity. So when I came in freshman year, I didn't even know if I'd get that opportunity. So that was also a big change for me as my coach gives every single person an opportunity, which I think is a really good thing because some people may just perform differently in a game and she does give multiple opportunities. So some days you just have bad days. So being able to have that other day to go forward, that's also not something I expected out of college coach. I thought they were all pretty mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how they're portrayed. And I mean, with all the athletes we've talked to and people we know, no one really has the mean college coach. Usually you don't have a bad experience as long as you're willing to try to outwork people. I feel like for the most part, people with bad experiences are the ones that make a lot of excuses, don't put in the time. They're more worried about the product instead of the process. And it sounds like you came in as a freshman scared to death a little bit, but it sounded like not many people outworked you either.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been a competitor. I think that just comes from playing all different kinds of sports. Definitely helped me. I do think that also helped. Like I went to college and Allie, I'm sure you had this experience. A lot of people only played softball. That surprised me. I feel like a lot of people near us play a lot of sports. We aren't all one sport athletes. So I will thank our little towns for that because
Agreed.
it's something that really helped me.
Yeah, I agree. And I was kind of surprised by that too. I'm like, what do you mean you only played softball? Like you didn't have other sports you were playing? And yeah, I mean, my dad and I, and I'm sure you as well, Wendy, are huge advocates of playing other sports. I mean, I help coach at a travel organization now, and I tell the girls all the time, like they're scared to tell me they're gonna miss off-season practice to go to their high school basketball game. I'm like, good luck. Like I hope you win. Like that's good. Go. Like, we're rooting for you. And I think, yeah, I mean, I just think that's huge too.
I don't think you're meant to do something every single month of your life. And if you can still work out and I mean basically cross train in another sport, it's just so healthy. And then you get excited for softball to start again instead of all year long. I mean, in economics, there's something called the law of diminishing returns. And I think you can practice something too much and you actually get a negative result out of it, right? So when you're doing the other stuff, for so many reasons we've talked about before, it keeps you fresh.
Yeah. Who would have thought you'd get a little econ lesson on here tonight?
And also, I think it just helps you stay healthy. I mean, I was blessed to not have a single injury throughout my entire career. So I don't think many people can say that.
That's
And
amazing. Yeah.
I was knocking on wood until the end of my season, but I truthfully think it's because I just played all these different sports and did all these different movements.
How's after all that college softball, how's the body feel? Like, were you sore, tired afterward? Is it an everyday thing? I know at Binghamton they called Allie a grandma her last year, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, so they definitely called us grandmas too, so it wasn't just me.
Okay.
After college, like once we played our last game, I took a whole month off. My body was just so
Yeah.
done. Like I thought my arms on the ground. And honestly, it was more my legs, but not even just the physical. I was just mentally drained from softball. I think like you don't realize how long this season really is, and especially your whole entire career. So I think it's just that whole month off. Now I feel great. But if I would have just kept training over and over, I think I still would be in the same situation. So I'm glad I took time off, but I took time off actually after every single season. I think time off is important, but definitely felt it in the body my last year.
Yeah, agreed. So what was that kind of month-long period like? Because I think it kind of hits you like a few weeks after it's like your whole career is just a flashback now. So I guess what kind of perspective do you have now looking back at your entire career?
So the first few weeks after my career was done, I feel like I just did so much moving. I came home, then flew to a job interview, then came back, and then drove 17 hours down to Florida. So
Yeah.
obviously, I don't think my first month off really counted because I was just so busy. I didn't even have time to sit down and think. I was moving into my apartment, just doing all these things. So I don't think it hit me until honestly recently. It's
Yeah.
just very different. It's like you kind of run into a brick wall. You don't really know what to do. There's a lot of nights where I call my parents and I'm like, I have nothing to do. I don't know what to do. And my mom's like, well, you need to go find something. So I think it's just finding different hobbies and like trying to find that, but I'm still in the process of finding different hobbies to do. Definitely have played pickleball. I do like pickleball. I know
Oh
Me
boy.
too, yeah.
that is a big thing that a lot of people are getting into, and I do enjoy that. So definitely something that's still competitive because I just like to compete against people. So I think that's the fun part of it.
It's funny you say that because I did the same thing when I moved out here. I called my parents and I'm like, I don't know how people just go to work and then come home. Like, what else do I do? Because it's only 5:30. So it's funny. I think it's just unless my day is like jam-packed, I don't feel like I was efficient. And I'm still working on that too. Like you said, the relaxation piece of like, it's okay if I just want to come home and like watch Netflix for a night, that's okay. But I'm just, yeah, it's funny you say that because I was going through the same thing.
Yes, it has been tough, but hopefully it gets better.
Yeah, it does. I promise. You're good. You're good. And I think too, giving lessons, like that's something I do here. And it's the perfect way to like keep that in your life too, right? Like, and I think it's crazy too. You're gonna see girls who have similar tendencies that you did and just see it in a different light and be like, oh my gosh, I was like that.
Yeah.
Which is just funny.
I think, I mean, I played college golf 100 years ago. And the hardest part when I got done was watching some of your good friends still play.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you two have both been through that. And the good news is 3, 4 years from now, you're not going to know any of the people playing. And, you know, as silly as that sounds or as sad as that sounds, that to me personally was a big step in my process a long time ago. Uh, Time will tell with both of you, but you know, you go to battle with people and then the next year you're watching them all do it, you know.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
I think it's crazy too. I don't know if you felt this way moving somewhere new, but you just go from such a community of people that you see every day to immediately being a plane ride away from
Yeah.
them. And I think you truly find out too, like who your close friends are in that time period too.
Yes, I am already like looking at plane rides all the time. I'm like, where can I go?
Yeah.
I am going back to Albany in October. We are going to get our rings. So I am excited for that and to see everyone. And like, we had a big class, so like a big class is coming in. So I kind of have that same situation where obviously I know people that played, but there's also a lot of people that I don't know. They have 10 freshmen coming in. So there's
Whoa.
10 people that I won't even know. So I have been like talking to my coaches and stuff, but like, I think it is happening to me a little bit sooner because so many new
That's a good
people are
point.
there. So I don't know as many people. So I think that has helped a lot, but knowing that I'm like going back to visit, I think that's very helpful, but I'm excited to go see them play in the
Yeah,
spring. I definitely will have to go watch.
that'll be really fun. I remember going back and I went to my dad, I'm like, I think this is the first Binghamton softball game I've like watched, like sat in the stands and watched. Like it's so weird.
The tournament this year is at Binghamton.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, they just did more upgrades to the field, I guess.
Oh,
Like,
really?
well, they got the video board and
Oh,
all
yeah.
of that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even play at Binghamton the last year, so I didn't even get to see any of it. I wish I did because obviously a lot of my family can come then, but
Yeah, I know. That's
the
nice.
scheduling's weird. The America East needs to add another softball team.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed.
Do you, and either of you can ask this question. Obviously, you probably have friends from high school still. The friends you make in college or on your softball team, is it a different type of friendship? Is it a deeper? Are you still closer to high school friends or does it depend? I guess it's not really a question. I just want your thoughts on the relationships you develop in college versus high school, or is it the same?
I think personally for me, my relationships are deeper in college. I think I'm closer with the ones that I am with in college now because I lived with the same girl for 3 years. So I was just with her for 3 years, every single day, doing the same exact thing over and over and over. So I think definitely like having that relationship and just being with them every single day. Obviously in high school, I think you're with people every day and like you see the same people, but you don't get the opportunity to live with someone like that. So I think having the opportunity to live with someone just really puts an emphasis on that whole friendship.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think too, in college, you like truly see each other go through adversity at like a really, really close level. So you're just with each other through like this roller coaster of events. And I think that bonds you too. But I also have a few friends from high school that I'm very, very close to. And honestly, like I appreciated them through my college experience because they were just an uninvolved third party that would tell me if I'm being dramatic, like, or, just kind of someone for me to talk to that had no real involvement in what I was doing, which I think can be value add too. Wendy, I'm not sure if you feel that way too.
Yes, definitely. Sometimes I was like, I need to go home for the weekend because it is just too much up here right now. So definitely I would do that once in a while, just go home for the weekend. Sometimes even during season, I'd be like, I need a day to go home. So I would drive home for one night and go back. Sometimes just the quick little refresh.
Yeah. Remember, there's a world of people who don't play softball.
Yes. And that softball is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
No, but I always, Allie's heard me say this 1,000 times, and so have our guests. But what you guys did wasn't normal, but you're around people that just feel like it's normal. So outsiders will look and say, "You're all crazy." You're like, this is just what college is supposed to be, right? This is life, and it's far from normal. Do you realize any of that now that you're out?
I think so because I'll just like, there's just like some things that like happen during practice and I would go and like watch little kids practice and I'm like, I just don't think what I did is what's supposed to be done. So then I like rethink it and I'm like, I don't think you should probably do that. So it's like certain experiences that you have at practice and like, I think we used to have punishment runs. I think I would never make someone do those punishment runs that we had to do. But like, it's just like silly little things that like I did in college that I would never make someone else do because it sounds crazy.
Yeah, literally. And it's funny now, Dad, I don't know if I told you this too, but at work a while ago, someone was asking me about myself and I said I played softball and they were like, oh, like slow pitch? I'm like, not quite. So it's just a perspective of people doing different things than you. I was cracking up. But yeah, it's just interesting. But going back to your point where you just said softball isn't everything. Um, is that something you realized kind of recently? Because I know when you're younger, it really can seem like it's everything. And I think it's a game where it's really easy to tie like your happiness and your worth to what you're doing, but it's also a game of failure. So just curious your thoughts on that too.
I don't think I learned that until April of this year. I think it took my entire career to realize that, and I wish I realized it sooner. And obviously, I think like bad events happened in order for me to realize that, like losing friends. I think that definitely was like, oh my gosh, softball really is not everything. And I remember the first 4 years of my college career, I was still crying to my dad if he said something bad about my pitching or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am too old to be doing this. But it just shows like how much you care for the game and how badly you really want it. And I think in like April of this year, I was like, I have nothing to lose. It is my last year, and kind of just had that mentality. And it has never been easier. I feel like I was just so relaxed throwing, and I wish I had that my entire career. I wish I got that sooner because I never felt more relaxed and more confident in myself when I just stopped caring. I think we just care too much as athletes and we just want it so badly, but I had to not want it so badly, and then I ended up getting it. So I think it's just finding that balance and just realizing everyone says relax and play. And I think you really, really have to do that.
It's really ironic because I remember a distinct day at practice my junior year. One of my coaches looked at me and was like, "You need to try less." And I was like, "What?" But like what you said, it just makes sense. It was just the more you want it sometimes, the less of a result you get, which is really, really frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it's easier said than done too, to just have that attitude. And I think sometimes that comes with age and like you said, when you're at the end of your career, but it is really, really tough.
I usually ask what advice you would give younger players, especially in high school, but you guys just both answered that question. So I don't think I have to do that. I want to ask you this. Do either of you, I'm going to put you on the spot, do either of you have a moment playing against each other you remember?
Oh God.
I definitely do, and it's not a good one for me. It's a
Oh,
good one for everybody. I remember,
Oh no.
I think it had to have been 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Had to have been, I think you were probably a junior.
Okay.
Did you play at Albany your senior year? Or did you play both?
Senior year, we played at Albany.
Okay, so I think it had to be in junior year. It was, I think, the 6th inning. I don't remember exactly what the score was, but you hit a ball, a pop fly to left center.
Into the sun.
A pop fly, yes, and it was
Yeah.
and my center fielder lost the ball in the sun, and we lost the game from it.
I know.
And I remember that like it was yesterday because I was like, oh my gosh. But it was the perfectly placed ball. Like you really hit the ball in the most
I would
perfect.
like to say that I was doing that on purpose. It's not at all.
And
But
I remember we lost the game from that.
it's funny because I remember hitting it and I'm like, shit. And then on it first base, I'm like, oh my God, she can't see. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was the crazy. I've never seen someone like actually have a sunball that bad.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't even close, like where it
yes.
dropped for her. Yeah.
It was
Oh,
like funny, but obviously it made me mad. But
right.
that's
Now
definitely
it's funny.
something I remember.
Yeah. No, it was, I mean, we always had intense games against you guys.
Yes.
But no, yeah, that's funny. Right when you said at Binghamton, I was like, I think I know what you're gonna say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at remembering a lot of things, but that one stuck with me.
But isn't it interesting too? Because I feel like in some moments you think you're gonna remember stuff forever, and looking back now, it's like I don't even. My dad will say, "Oh, remember when you played here and like did this?" I'm like, "No, I don't." No.
I have that golfer mentality. I can remember holes from like 20 years ago, that I scored on. So,
Wow.
no,
it's
I
weird.
always,
It's weird.
it's, what a ride you guys had. This is so cool to have. Well, I have Allie on every week, so I'm stuck with her. But it,
Yeah.
it was nice to have you on because even though you guys were literally from the same area, a 30-mile radius, we've never really talked to you too much or anything,
It's
I
just,
mean,
yeah, it's interesting though, because sometimes I'm like, if you were not on like an opposing team from somebody, who would you get along with? Or like, who would it's crazy.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Definitely is crazy. And I know like everyone on my team's always like, oh, like, do you know all the girls from Binghamton? And like, I just think they don't realize. And I'm like, they're not all from my town, but I feel like you guys are getting more from the area now that your coaches are from the area. So that's
Yeah, I
happening
mean,
for Binghamton, I think.
yeah, even like Soph and Allie Lamb are literally
Mhm.
grew up there. So
Yeah,
it's cool. But
definitely a cool experience. I mean, I loved coming home and playing, so I couldn't imagine
yeah.
playing all the time.
It's awesome. I guess last question, unless Daddy you have any other. What do you feel like are some of the biggest life skills you've gotten from softball? I'm sure we could sit here for the next hour and go back and forth about them, but I guess are there one or two that kind of stick out to you?
I'd say time management is probably the biggest one, and especially in my last year doing the internship and all the job interviews and all that. Definitely time management. And I think the other one would be communication. Especially being a pitcher, I did not talk my freshman year at all and quickly had to learn that I needed to talk because I was the focal point of the field. So I think that was a big thing. And then as I got older, I had all freshman infield at one point. So I think it's just like learning to communicate, especially with the infielders, and having that communication with your catcher and coaches. I think that was a really big thing. So probably those two things were the biggest things that I learned throughout college that definitely I still use now. I always joke because I came to Florida, and I don't know if you know, but down south, their time management is a little different than up north.
They're a little
it's
slower.
slower.
Yeah.
So that is something I've had to adjust to, definitely, because I'm used to fast pace and getting a lot done. And here my boss is like, relax, like there's no emergencies in finance, like relax. I think that's like something that is funny that I've brought down, but definitely those two.
That's really cool. Did you think you were gonna end up in finance?
I
Like,
did not. So originally I wanted to do
yeah.
the college athletics, but honestly, when I first went freshman year, I wanted to be a high school math teacher for the longest time. That's what I wanted to do. And then I did my observation hours and I absolutely hated it. I don't know if it was just I did it in Albany at like not a great school, and I just
Yeah.
like the situation, but I wanted to do that because I wanted to be able to coach. That was my biggest thing, was
Yeah.
being a coach. But then I ended up getting my MBA, and obviously I had the numbers background. I did my undergrad in math, so got my MBA and wanted to do that. But
I'm laughing because I did the exact same thing. So
really?
yeah, I was math and econ and then got my MBA. So,
Yes, that is exactly what I did. So different path, but yep.
that's really cool. Oh, I'm happy for you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. You liking Florida so far? Other
I
than
do.
the slow pace people.
It's very, very hot, I will say, but having like the beach and stuff is really nice. I feel like my parents are just using me for vacation whenever they want one, but it's been good.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yes.
Wendy, we wish you the best, and I know you'll stay connected to the game. I mean, you can you can feel the energy when you talk about the pitching lessons and staying connected and man, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely. Take care, Wendy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye.